My girlfriend said, "You're not the problem," but I found a new love letter from him. I couldn't breathe. I was standing there, frozen, staring at the letter in my hand. It was in her handwriting, familiar, comforting, the kind of script you get used to after seeing it 1,000 times on birthday cards and grocery lists. But this wasn't a grocery list. This was a love letter. To him. From her. I heard the faint sound of footsteps behind me, and I turned around so fast I almost stumbled. She was standing in the doorway, her face pale, eyes wide. "What's going on?" Her voice was soft, but I could tell she was already preparing for something. We've been fighting for a while now, but this felt different. I didn't know what to say, how to explain what I was holding, the evidence of something I couldn't yet comprehend. I found this," I said, barely managing to get the words out. My fingers tightened around the letter, crumpling it just a little. I didn't want to let go of it. It was like a lifeline in this moment, even if it felt like it was dragging me to the bottom. "Why is there a love letter from him in your things?" The words came out harsher than I intended, like I was accusing her instead of asking. Her face flickered with a flash of guilt, then panic. She took a step toward me, but stopped short, like she wasn't sure whether to approach or run. I can explain," she said, her voice shaky. But I couldn't hear her. Not really. My mind was spinning too fast. This was it. This was the moment everything I had been ignoring or rationalizing hit me in the face. I had been brushing off all the little things over the past few months. The way she'd been pulling away, the late nights at work, the sudden secrecy with her phone. I thought I was just being paranoid. She kept telling me I was being paranoid, that I was the one with trust issues. But now, standing here with this letter in my hand, all the pieces clicked together with a terrible finality. "I don't even know what to say right now," I muttered. My chest felt tight, like someone was squeezing the air out of my lungs. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but instead, I just felt numb. "How long, Emma?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. I couldn't even look at her anymore. I was staring at the floor, trying to get a grip, trying to stop myself from shaking. She didn't answer right away. I could hear her breathing, shallow and uneven, before she finally spoke. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I never meant for you to find out like this." Her voice cracked, and I almost hated her for sounding so broken when I felt like my whole world was collapsing. I looked up at her then, needing to see her face, needing to see if there was any part of the woman I thought I knew left in her. Her eyes were wide, moist, but there was no apology in them. Just fear. Fear that I was going to leave, which, frankly, I wasn't sure I wanted to do, but didn't know how to stay either. We'd been together for 3 years. 3 fucking years. How did I not see this coming? The first time I met Emma, she had this way of making everything feel easy. It was like she walked into the room and the sun followed her. She had this smile, you know, the kind, the one that you just can't stop staring at because it makes everything feel like it's going to be okay. Even now, standing there with a letter in my hand, I could see in my mind's eye her smile, her laugh, the way she'd been able to convince me that everything was fine, that I was the one who was overthinking things, the one who needed to trust her more. God, I thought we were in this together. I opened my mouth to ask again, but I didn't know what to say. How do you ask someone you love if they've been in love with someone else? How do you make sense of something like this? The letter still burned in my hand, but I couldn't bring myself to read it again. I didn't need to. The damage was already done. "I don't even know where to start," she said, her voice so small now. She was twisting her hands together, wringing her fingers in that nervous way she always did when she was caught in a lie. That was the worst part. This wasn't the first time I'd caught her in something. Not like this, not this bad, but there had been moments. Her late nights, the missed calls from friends that always seemed to be from someone I didn't know. The excuses, the little details I couldn't quite pin down. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself I trusted her. But now, standing in front of me, I realized I had never truly trusted her. Not the way I should have. "Do you love him?" I asked before I could stop myself. It was too quiet, almost like I was afraid of the answer. It hung between us for a second, and I thought I saw her hesitate, like she was weighing it in her head, deciding how much of the truth to give me. Finally, she nodded slowly. "Yes," she whispered. "I do. And just like that, my world turned upside down. I wasn't sure if it was the numbness that took over or if it was just the weight of the truth crashing into me, but I couldn't think straight. I didn't know what to do with that answer. It was like everything that had made sense before now didn't matter. All the promises we'd made, all the plans we'd talked about, they meant nothing. I didn't know if I was supposed to be angry or devastated or numb. I didn't know if I wanted to fight for us or walk out the door and never look back. The letter in my hand felt like a betrayal, but so did her admission. "Are you happy with him?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper now. My hands were shaking so hard, I had to squeeze them in a fist to stop them from betraying me further. She didn't answer immediately, and in that silence, something in me cracked. It wasn't the words that broke me. It was the absence of them. Part 2. She finally spoke, her voice low and almost apologetic. "I don't know," she said. "I don't know if I'm happy with him. But I know I'm not happy here. Not anymore. Not with you." Those words hit me like a punch to the gut. I had been bracing for something, some explanation, some justification, but not this. Not the admission that she had been unhappy with me. Not the realization that all the moments I thought we were in this together were just me holding on to something that wasn't there anymore. The floor beneath me felt like it was tipping over, and I had to grip the edge of the couch to steady myself. I wanted to say something, to ask her why, how long it had been going on, why she never told me she was unhappy. But I couldn't get the words out. My throat was tight, like I was suffocating on all the things I wanted to say, but none of them seemed like they mattered anymore. Not when the truth was hanging in the air, clear as day. She didn't love me the way I loved her. She didn't want me the way I wanted her. For the longest time, I just stood there, staring at her, and then at the floor, and then at the love letters still clenched in my hand, crumpled at the edges like some cheap piece of paper. It felt like everything in my life, everything I thought I knew, was falling apart. She had broken my heart, but I was still standing there, trying to make sense of it. And I hated myself for it. Emma took a step forward, her eyes filled with something close to guilt, but I wasn't sure anymore if it was because she felt bad for me, or because she felt guilty for not feeling the same way. "I never wanted to hurt you," she said softly, almost pleading with me. "I never wanted to get this far." The problem was, I didn't know what to believe anymore. What did it mean that she didn't want to hurt me? She had already hurt me, and all the apologies in the world couldn't take back what she'd done. The lies, the deceit. I had spent so many nights convincing myself it wasn't as bad as I thought. But here we were. She was telling me that she didn't love me the way I loved her, and that was the hardest part to swallow. "Then why didn't you tell me?" I asked, the words slipping out before I could stop them. My voice cracked a little. "Why didn't you just tell me, Emma?" She opened her mouth like she was going to answer, but then closed it again. She seemed to be looking for the right words, but there weren't any. Not ones that could fix this. "I don't know," she said after a beat, her voice quieter now. "I didn't know how. I thought you'd hate me. I thought I could fix it before it got this bad." I shook my head, backing away from her. The thought of being trapped in that relationship longer, of continuing down this road of lies and broken promises, made my skin crawl. I had spent years trying to understand her, trying to make her happy, and I had failed. I had failed her, and I had failed myself. Because here I was, still trying to make sense of it, still wondering if there was some way to save something that was already gone. "I don't even know who you are anymore," I whispered, more to myself than to her. I could feel the tears pricking the back of my eyes, but I didn't want to cry. Not in front of her. Not like this. I wasn't the victim. Not here, not now. I had let this happen. I had let her get away with so much, convincing myself that she was just busy or stressed, or that it was me, that I was the one to blame. I turned my back on her then. I couldn't look at her anymore. I couldn't stomach the sight of her standing there, acting like nothing was wrong, when everything was wrong. The life I thought we had, the love I thought was real, it was all just an illusion, and it had been for a long time. "You should go," I said, my voice cold, almost foreign. I felt detached, like I wasn't even talking to her, but to some version of myself that was trying to get through this with whatever dignity I had left. I didn't know if I wanted her to leave so I could cry, or so I could finally have some space to breathe, without feeling like I was suffocating under the weight of her presence. She didn't move at first. I could feel her standing behind me, waiting for me to say something else to take it back. But I couldn't. I couldn't take it back. I couldn't undo the past few months or years, or however long this had been building up. "Please don't leave like this," she whispered. I clenched my fists, but I didn't turn around. "You're the one who's been leaving for months," I said, the words sharper now. "You're the one who's already gone. I'm just the last to find out." I heard her footsteps falter. For a second, I thought she might say something else. Apologize. Ask me to wait, to try to work through it. But she didn't. Instead, I heard her walk to the door and then the sound of the knob turning. "Goodbye, Simon," she said, the words soft, almost like she was saying goodbye to someone she used to know. And then she was gone. And just like that, the room felt emptier than it had ever been. The silence that followed was suffocating, like the world outside had just gone still. I stood there, holding the letter, feeling the weight of her absence settle into my bones. For the first time in a long time, I felt alone, completely alone. And the worst part was, I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know how to move on from the person who had just walked out of my life. The letter was still in my hand. I opened it, finally, and read the words she had written. They weren't for me, and they never would be. They were for him, the man who had taken her heart long before I even realized it was slipping away. The man who had replaced me. I didn't cry. Not yet. But I could feel it building inside me. Maybe when I was alone, I'd let it out. Maybe then, I'd finally let go. But right then, I just stood there, staring at the crumpled paper, and let the reality of what had just happened hit me. And somehow, in the midst of all that pain, I knew something else. I would be okay. Eventually. But right now, I just needed to breathe.